Are you giving to give a token consideration because it makes you feel better in your heart? Or are you giving because you're really going to uncomfortably give to make an impact?
As you're expanding and you're experiencing generosity and you're holding all this goodness and love and joy and maybe some hard things, anxiety, you live out of like abundance.
When I do pass, I don't want them saying, Dad built this great home building company or he did this development or whatever it is. I want them talking about what I've been able to do in this community. That's what I want to be known for.
Welcome to the Rethreading Lives podcast, where we talk about how to take your threads of harm and through the rethreaded process, transform them into something that actually helps you reach your potential. We'll talk with different leaders in our city and our country and find out what they're doing. You'll walk away from listening to this podcast with useful insights and captivating stories on how you yourself can rethread your life and your business. I'm Kristin Keen, and this is the Rethreading Lives podcast. Welcome to Rethreading Lives podcast. Our guest today is Chris Shee, who is, I don't even know your title, the president of Mastercraft.
My brother's the president.
Okay, what are you?
I don't know. I'm whatever they let me be that day. CEO.
You're the CEO of Mastercraft Builders. Chris Shee is a force of nature. He's a force of good. The rethreading process, this is why we started this whole thing, Rethreading Lives, is because we want people to reach their potential. And I feel like you live your life in a way where you are always expanding your potential. And you're expanding the potential of others. Like it's this, if it's the sphere, you are expanding. I'll just brag on you a little bit because I can't remember any titles. I know that you were like Builder of the Year for the state of Florida.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Last year.
Which
is crazy because we build only in St. Johns County. I mean, last year was our biggest year. We did 120 homes, which for us is a ton. But as a builder, I mean, we're still this tiny little.
I know, but this tiny little business, I'm going to keep going and brag about you.
Yeah, thanks.
affects so many people.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually I want to talk to you about your culture, how you became this Chris Shee, but then you also own the Tringali Barn.
Yes, ma'am.
Which people rent it out for weddings. And then once you reach a certain level, then everything after that is nonprofits. So you give the barn to us once a year for our Christmas party. And then it's usually matched with $10,000. And then we have $10,000 in sales. So that's $20,000 at our party that you open your place up. And that's what we do. Then you host Clays for a Cause clay shooting, which raises over $220,000.
$285 last year.
$285,000, and then gives it away to nonprofits. And Mastercraft covers all the cost.
That's correct.
To put the tournament on.
Yep.
So I don't know how many nonprofits and how many lives you changed through that. And then just the way that you lead your employees and lead your company, lead your family. I mean, you have this huge impact. So it doesn't surprise me you were the Builder of the Year for the state of Florida. And also what I love is that you also go to I know Riverside Homes, and I know essentially you're competitors, but essentially you also support each other's fundraisers. You support each other's causes. There's total respect there. I mean, it's all just so good.
It's good. Yeah, we're Northeast Florida, even though we feel like this huge community now because of the growth that we've experienced, we still are a little town. And if you look at the building industry in particular, even though technically we are all competitors, we're all brothers and sisters, and we're all aiming at the same goal of being successful in our businesses. And especially with the local builders like Riverside and Mastercraft, and you can name a whole slew of them, the local builders all care about supporting this community too. I won't say the national builders don't, but for local builders, this is our hometown.
It's a different investment.
Yeah, that's totally different. And that's why with Clays for a Cause and really with all of my givings, it's important to me to keep them local. Not to say that I did give money this year to South Sudan, to a group that has a great mission in South Sudan. And but that's the first time I've ever given outside of this local area. And again, it's not, if you want to contribute to Haiti or this mess going on and with Israel and Gaza, and that's all great. But for me, I love seeing the impact that our givings have right here in our community. And I'm blessed with being able, because my brother runs the company, with being able to get out there and really get to know the nonprofits.
Mm.
And it's the most rewarding thing I've honestly ever done.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I want to tell the story about how we met.
Sure.
And then, okay, because I am Kristin Keene and I just do things differently in life. And we were trying to sell corporate gifts. So we became the first nonprofit to join the Northeast Builders Association. They didn't have like a category for us. They didn't have a nonprofit rate. It's like, I really want to join here. And I remember the first meeting, you got up and you were talking about Builders Care, and which is the organization where people donate a certain percentage of their business.
Kind of. Builders Care, it's a faith-based nonprofit that is the nonprofit of the Northeast Florida Builders Association.
Right.
I am chairman of that. I have been for 2 years, and they just twisted my arm, so I got 2 more years left. But we provide low cost and no cost construction services to those in need. It's absolute grace.
And so when I walked in the room, I was like, there's this guy up front encouraging all these other leaders in our community, in the building community, that they need to give. And I was like, that's who I need to know. I was like, I need to know that man right there. And I wasn't wrong. At Rethreaded, we talk about deeply good progressive leaders. That's who we need to know, because they are the people that will influence our city and change the world. So
thank you.
What I need to know, because I feel like I'm too excited in this interview. I don't really know a lot about, like, maybe paint the picture for people where you are now. Like, what does your life look like now? And then we'll go back, kind of how you got to the now.
Can I do it in reverse?
You can.
That'd be easier.
Okay.
So oftentimes I do talk a lot about money when I get the opportunity to speak. And I do that because I went the wrong way with money for a long time and trying to chase it and idolize it, if you will.
Do you know why? Like, it was
because we didn't have any.
You didn't have any. Okay.
And I sometimes start off talking by saying, my brother and I are very fortunate because we grew up extremely wealthy. And it kind of shuts the room down for a second. And I said, the only difference is we didn't have any money. And my dad hates me saying that, frankly. And it's not that my parents always provided for us, but we moved from Jacksonville down to Fort Lauderdale when I was in the 4th grade. And Fort Lauderdale, South Florida, is a whole different level of money down there. And if you have money, you show it. If you don't have money, you act like you do. It's just very materialistic down there. And so we didn't have that disposable income. And I wanted what all my friends had. And like one of my friends, when he had his bar mitzvah at 13, he got a brand new boat and he got a Jeep Grand Cherokee so he could learn how to drive. I mean, it's that kind of stuff, right? So I wanted all that stuff. And I graduated from college. I immediately started doing well in the home building industry, and I started chasing that stuff. And throughout, getting into my own business and all like that, I finally set a goal, and I made a promise to God. And I said, God, if you will get me to X as far as net worth, I will give up the for-profit world and I will go nonprofit. And I was committed to that because I've always had a heart for giving, but it just started becoming a little more radical at that time. And I knew that's kind of where I wanted to end up. So it was like 2018, it was 5 or 6 years ago. And I was stressed out. I was overly anxious. I had this big piece of land under contract. I didn't have the money for it. I just went through some partnership buyouts and just stressful. And I thought, I want to see where I am as far as net worth. And in real estate, you never count your chickens before they hatch, because until a deal closes, anything can happen. So I actually created a spreadsheet called Counting My Chickens. And I added up everything that I had if I sold everything. And lo and behold, that number was 2x. It was just shy of 2x what I promised God. You want to talk about being scared? Like I was terrified because I promised him, you get me here and I'll quit my business. And he's like, oh yeah, homeboy, what about 2 times? Now what are you going to do? And ultimately what I decided is that I'm more powerful for his kingdom by owning a business because it gives me a platform, owning a business, and I get to deal with and meet a lot of new people. And more importantly, I can continue to make money instead of taking this net worth, throwing it in an investment and just getting interest, right? I can keep growing the fruit on the tree. So ultimately what I decided at that point is that I'm going to keep going, but this money isn't mine. I don't need all the riches. And I also learned there's a big difference between being rich and being wealthy. Rich has everything to do with money. Wealth can have something to do with money. You can be wealthy and rich, but wealth really doesn't have anything to do with money. I mean, my wealth is my family and my kids and my friends and all those sort of things. So I'm inherently wealthy whether I have money in my pocket or not. And I was wealthy enough. I had the assets that I always dreamed of having. And I don't care to be some uber wealthy person. So I changed my channel at that point and I said, I'm going to really start giving back. And it is one of the most freeing things that I have ever done is just to I call it uncomfortably giving back. And that uncomfortable feeling, the first time I felt it, was actually in church. I was in my faith walk trying to figure things out, and I was going to write them a check. And I thought, okay, I'm going to write them a check for X. And it didn't really feel that impactful to me. I mean, it was a decent number, but it was like, it's not going to affect me. And then I thought, well, am I giving enough? So I started inching it up in my head, and I reached a point where I was like, that may be too much. I mean, what can I do with that money? And then I thought, that's it. That's the amount I need to give. So I struck, that was the first time I uncomfortably gave money. And I felt so damn good after doing that. And it's an unbelievable high to hand over something that people just live their lives chasing, which is empty, at the end of the day is money. And to be able to give it back and know that it's going to the right person and you're influencing goodness in the world, it's just my passion. And I am committed to my life being that, to giving back and helping in a radical way, helping our community.
And so this happened in your life in 2018. You had like a shift. You started giving, but you're part of a company with your brother and you're married and you have family. So what was the journey of the people around you? Because I'm assuming you don't have, I don't know how you and your brother work out the finances of the company, but.
So I own the company.
Okay.
And my brother, I own 100% of the company. I do look at my brother as a business partner, but one of the reasons I own it myself is if I want to write a check to somebody, I don't want to have to ask anybody. And if I'm writing a check and he's 50-50 with me, well, that means he's paying 50% of what I'm writing. And I don't do that. I take care of him in other ways outside of him being an owner. So that wasn't a big deal. My wife was honestly, I won't even say probably. My wife was the biggest influence in my journey for this. My wife could care less about stuff. Her, and she would probably kill me if she listens to this, but her wardrobe is Target, for the most part. And if it's not, it's the outlet mall or it's Marshall's or TJ Maxx or whatever. I have to force her to go buy stuff. And she does not care about things. So it wasn't like I had to have a conversation at all. It's actually the opposite. Like if I started harvesting all this money and just keeping it in an account, she would be on me to start giving it back. So she has been an amazing influence. And she also, through discussions with her when I was going through those anxious times, she told me you need to think through what happens if you don't close that piece of land. That's something I've been working on for about 4 years at the time. I was like, sweetie, I'm going to close it. And she's like, well, you should think about what happens if you don't close it. And I thought, all right. So I started going through that mental exercise. And it was very uncomfortable because I couldn't stand the thought of somebody else owning this thing that I poured my life into for so long. And then I was like, I'm going to take it one step further. So I don't close on the piece of land, but what if everything I own goes bankrupt? Then what? And that's a really scary thing because it can happen. We saw it in the Great Recession, right? So ultimately, that is where I learned the difference between being rich and wealthy. And I thought, all right, if I go absolutely bankrupt, I have all the wealth I need. I have this beautiful woman that I get to call my wife. I have 3 amazing boys. My family is as tight as can be. I have wonderful friends in my life. I can rebuild a business, but those are the intangibles that you can't just go out and buy or get or whatever. So I knew I was wealthy if I lost everything. And I've built this company from the ground up with 2 other partners in the beginning, and I can do it again. So she was an amazing influence and continues to be an amazing influence on everything that it relates to me.
And what effect has it had on your boys? Or do you know yet?
Yeah,
because how old are they?
So they're 21, 20, about to be 23 and 24. And it's a good question because it weighs on me a lot. The 21 that's about to be 23 years old is my stepson, but I look at him as my son because he's my wife's blood son. He has her heart. He really does. He doesn't always show it because we're men and we don't always show it, but his heart is just unbelievably able to pour into people. My boys have really huge hearts too, but they grew up watching a dad that was very materialistic, chasing business, working a lot of times way too hard. So it's important to me that they start getting involved in the nonprofit world and understanding what I just talked about with being wealthy and being rich. So we talk all the time about it. I share with them everything that goes on in business and when we have our big wins, and I tell them what it is. But then I also share with them all the money that we get back. And I encourage them to get involved. My oldest son, Brandon, who's 24, works for Pulte. And I know they've come to Rethreaded a couple of times now. Mm-hmm. And Brandon's asked me about getting more involved in Seamark Ranch. So they're seeing that. And I have told them all too, you aren't going to have a silver spoon in your mouth for the rest of your life. I didn't make money to entitle you for the rest of your life. Dad's here to help, no question about that. But this isn't all going to you guys. In fact, like the barn, for instance, there's no reason that I own that place. It's so unbelievably beautiful. And it's massive, and it's just, the land is second to none. But I don't want my boys to ever look at that thing monetarily. So when I pass in an urn or pine basket, or just they throw me in the dirt, whatever it is, and they decide to sell the barn, they can do that. But every penny has to go to a nonprofit.
That's so good. You secured your legacy.
Yeah. And I talked actually to my youngest boy about it this past weekend because he was in town and I hadn't talked to him about that. But I try to impress on them the lessons that I've learned. They're very receptive to them. They're very giving. But when I do pass, my goal, 1, is to have really cool rock and roll music playing at my funeral. And then 2 would be for my boys, when hopefully they get up and talk about me in a good way. I don't want them saying, Dad built this great home building company, or he did this development, or whatever it is. I want them talking about our legacy. Our legacy should be about what we've done in this community and what I've been able to do in this community. That's what I want to be known for.
And how do you, what am I trying to ask? I feel like it's a very courageous thing to do that. To have your legacy and live it out. I mean, it's essentially reaching your potential, right?
Yeah.
You have a limited time on this planet, and you will do your best. You know it's important, and you know how you want to leave the world, and you're doing it. I want to know more about what has stopped you from doing that. Because we talk about how blame and shame kind of comes into the picture. It can make you doubt your purpose, doubt your vision. It can make you, like when you were talking about time is one of the ones that we all struggle with, is like we have a limited amount of time and we waste so much time on stuff that doesn't matter. Being open and then having a community of people around us. Like, where do you feel like blame and shame kind of tried to take that away? Where you were not living out of your potential?
Blame and shame, still, they're a demon in my mind, even now. I got plenty of flaws. Just call my boys or my wife and they'll list them for you. But shame, we can all look back in our lives, and overall, I think I have been a good person overall, but we've all made mistakes and done stuff that we regret. And there are often times where little things will just remind me of, and I really wish I could go back to that person and apologize for calling them names in middle school, stupid things like that. But
Not
I
stupid.
still think about that stuff. So I'm shameful of that. I blame myself for flaws and things that I do now that I know aren't healthy or aren't the right thing to do. But yet, I mean, we are sinful in nature. And it, my belief in Jesus Christ is what grounds me, and it's hard for me to accept sometimes. Like, why would Jesus love me? Like, you read the book and why would he love me like that? But he does. And that's where faith comes in. I mean, it's hard to imagine that, but he is our father. He truly is our father. And I look at my boys, and if they went way off track, yes, I would be upset at them, but I would still love them, and I would want them to come back home and get back on track. And if they got back on track, or they came to me and they're like, Dad, I'm just flat ass broken, I would wrap my arms around them. So if I can do that as a sinful man, to be that loving and that forgiving, Jesus is just exponentially better than that. So it's my faith that pulls me out of that blame and shame. Blame and shame, though, they can anchor you in a valley. And if you don't release that anchor, you can sit there forever. And the past is the past. That's the other big part, right? And with the women that you deal with, I know some of their past, like Renata. What an impact that woman. I speak about her almost every time I talk about Rethreaded. I talk about her. And I don't know how to say it otherwise, just to be blunt, but they could say, all right, you have a very shameful past. But that's all right. That shameful past, not shameful future, because you can direct the future. And yeah, you're going to stub your toe and make mistakes and all, but the past is the past. And every new minute is a new minute to be something different. So building the courage in people and in ourselves to say, I need to stop blaming myself for what I did. I need to go make amends if you hurt somebody, or whatever it is, go ask for forgiveness, and continue on and just try to be a better person. I mean, does that answer your question?
Yeah. What do you, we had a conversation one time about why you give to who you give and what true religion is.
Yeah.
I loved that conversation. It's like, I wish you could tell this to all the business owners.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you want to?
Yeah, sure. So in my faith walk, I had an amazing counselor, rabbi, friend, everything, named Fred Miners. He was the executive director at Seamark Ranch. And Fred he would lean on me, but not too hard. And he would let me ask a bunch of questions. And he said to me one day, he said, Chris, I've always had this dream of creating a group called Fathers to the Fatherless. And I thought, that's interesting. I like the name. And I went on my Bible app shortly out, I don't know, some period after that. And I was typing in Fathers to the Fatherless, and I ended up on James 1:27. And James 1:27 says something like, religion that God our Father finds pure and faultless is this. So this is what God finds pure and faultless, to look after orphans and widows in their distress and not be polluted by the earth. And I was like, holy moly, that needs to be the motto and the theme of my life, period. Look after orphans and widows. And orphans and widows translated, I believe, is kids and women. And it's not to say that we shouldn't help men, but I have no other way to be but honest. I do struggle with helping men. I do help them, but my heartstrings pull for women and children because if, again, use Rethreaded, look at the root cause of the problems of most of your women, if not all of your women. And what does that tie back to? A man. And we have, as men, we have the ability to build people up. And unfortunately, we have the ability to break people down really badly. Women and children being the easiest targets. Mm-hmm. So that it resonated with me. And it's what God, again, finds pure and faultless to help orphans and widows in their distress. And then the last piece of it, do not be polluted by the earth. That could be a whole dissertation for someone just to stay away from the material goods. And to me, it's really like, get anchored in what the Bible tells you to do. Get anchored in those red letters. What did Jesus preach to us? And what did he tell us we need to do? And he got very upset at all these people that were focusing on money, even the Pharisees that were, the highest religious leaders, they were corrupt. And the materialism and all, the most important thing that he teaches us is love. And if you focus on that more and say, you're right, I don't need all these crazy things, and I don't need 17 houses that I'm not going to see every year. And I don't know, it just reset my life. And I use that quote a lot. It's actually on a corkboard in my office. It's on every single Clays for a Cause score sheet, because that is the mission. Whether or not you're faithful or not, or believe in Jesus, that doesn't matter. We're all brothers and sisters. But if you aren't Christian, that quote should not upset you. Take it as a good vibe.
Yeah.
And to me, that quote from the Bible is that's my life.
Which I love, because Jesus speaks more about greed and taking care of the poor and loving than anything else.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes the church gets lost in all these other things. And really it's not as complicated.
It's really not.
No.
Love one another and love your neighbor. Love everyone. And and forgiveness too. I know you didn't ask me about forgiveness, but forgiveness is something that I've had to learn through a family tragedy that really fractured my family. And staying away from the details of that, my family really, really got fractured by one of our family members, and there was a lot of anger and hatred. And it took me a couple years, but ultimately, what I finally realized, and I've tried to talk to my family about this too, because it's been very freeing, is that we aren't the judge. Right? We are all sinful. I don't care how good of a person you are, you have sinned, right? So you aren't Jesus. Jesus didn't sin. So if you're sinful in nature, then who the hell are you to judge that their sin is worse than what you've done, right? So he tells us to forgive because he wants us to not hold animosity and hatred and all. He wants us to love one another, to help one another, and he will judge us come Judgment Day. And so that, I finally learned forgiveness. I forgive you. I don't agree with what you did, but I have done a lot of bad stuff too. And I still love you. And we'll be judged later on in life or afterlife. And that, man, it's just been so freeing to give that.
Well, it's like, sorry, I'm pointing to the paper on the ground. It's the blame and shame. Unforgiveness can cause you to be stuck in blame for a long, 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 long time.
Yeah.
Or
And
forgiveness
harbor
towards yourself.
animosity and
Yeah.
everything. Yeah.
I mean, I did it
Yeah.
for a long time.
Yeah. It's something else my wife taught me, to forgive. Because she doesn't deserve to give forgiveness to everyone as well. But she's just, I could talk about my wife forever. She's been an amazing influence on me.
How did you guys meet?
She worked for my attorney, and she was doing closings for us. And that was 12 years ago, 11 years ago.
11 years ago.
Yeah, something like that.
Really? I didn't know it was that long. I don't know how long I thought it was.
Yeah. I'm going to make myself very vulnerable here.
This is what we like.
My wife and I did not get together in the proper manner. This is my second wife. Blame and shame still attack me when it comes to that. My wife has been one of the greatest influences on me. I really believe that I am married to the woman I should be married to. And never, ever does a thought cross my mind that I don't want to be married to her. Even when I get angry as hell or whatever, about something, I know that she's the one that I want. And, but because of the way our relationship started, it really does weigh on me. And the fact that I hate calling her my ex-wife, I'll call her my mom's boys, or my boy's mom. But because ex-wife, I mean, I don't like it being negative, but the fact that she has offered forgiveness to the tune of, we're going to a concert with our boys and we're all going together. We're all riding in the same vehicle. Next Thursday, we have a big function for the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. My wife, or ex-wife, excuse me, and her boyfriend and her parents will be there at this event with me and my wife and my parents and our boys. And I don't deserve that. I feel like I don't deserve that a lot of times. But thank goodness that she did offer us forgiveness. And, again, I'm full of faults. I'm full of sin. I've done bad things in my life, but I can only change what I'm doing in the future.
Because we talk about at Rethreaded, you take these threads of hard things and we rethread them into something that eventually can be used for good. Like, have you had moments yet where those hard things have been rethreaded into something? We call it full circle moments. Full circle moments where it's been rethreaded into something that, well, I feel like only God can do this, to use something for good. And you have this full circle moment. Maybe it's healing. Maybe it's the forgiveness. I don't know.
It's everything. Everything. I have battled, personally, mental illness. I had a horrible eating disorder when I was in high school. And I've struggled with anxiety and depression. And in my darkest days, I would be lying to you if I told you that I didn't question my existence on this planet.
Yeah.
And in those darkest times, it wasn't shortly thereafter where things started getting better. And I always looked back on that and said, thank God I didn't do something stupid, because it was temporary. And there's a song called Soul Shine, written by government mule Warren Haynes, and all my brothers play it. A lot of people play it, but it's one of my favorite songs. And one of the lines in that song is, "It's always darkest before the dawn." My wife's name is Dawn too, so coincidental, but it is the darkest that it is right before the sun comes up, starts peeking up. And if you think about that in your life, as you're going through those super dark places, and you want to give up, you don't feel like you're meaningful anymore to anyone or this world or anything, hang in there. It always gets better. And God is putting us through these trials and tribulations for some reason. And it's hard to define what that is. Sometimes we might not figure that out. But there's a reason that we're going through those things. And you start weaving back together the goodness that you have in your life and the talents that the Lord has given you. And and you start rebuilding yourself and rethreading yourself. It's all we can do, but giving up is to me, especially as a Christian now, that's not an option. That is not an option. Stick through it, go find help, go find support. But don't give up. That's for dang sure.
So it's in your journey, it's like you forgot your purpose. It's like you have now, it's a more recent thing that your life, you see your purpose.
Yeah.
And you have vision of what you want it to look like, and you act on it. You have this community of people around you now. You have your wife, you have your family.
Even my employees.
And your employees.
My employees. I'm so blessed with my folks. I can honestly tell you, there's not a single person on my team that if I had the ability to just quickly get rid of them, that I would do. Every single person on our team is amazing. And we do have similar threads and having big hearts and giving back. My folks are so proud of the giving back that our company does. And we in Mastercraft, our foundation is built on what we call the 4 C's, the letter C. And it's craftsmanship, which speaks for itself as a home builder, customer service, choice, which relates to semi-customization and allowing our folks to more options than normal. But the 4th is community. And that's giving back to our community. That is 1/4 of our foundation. We can't stand on 3 legs the way our C's are set up, because you're going to fall over if you don't have that 4th in there. And on the back of our business card are the 4 C's. There's an icon for each 4C. And every employee gets to highlight in red, the others are in gray, what they're most proud of. I bet you probably half of my employees, the red is on community. And they come to me often. I had one yesterday come to me and she said, Chris, we just learned of this lady who her son died in a tragic car accident and they're in really, really bad shape. Is there any way you can write them a check for X? And I said, how about 2.5X? And I want, like, bring us stuff. And I told her, this is our motivation for making money. Making money just to stuff in your wallet, it's worthless. This is why we make money. So bring us those needs. And if there's a real need, you won't hear no come out of our mouth. And that is a company philosophy now that our people embrace. One of our builders started a motorcycle ride 2 years ago called Hometown Heroes, and it mostly helps vets and first responders in need. And he just approached me with it. He's like, Chris, I'd really like to do this. I had this dream of doing this. Last year, this year, because we always do it in April, we had over 400 motorcycles in that ride, raised over $50,000. And that was his idea, but I got to help him. I got to give some seed money and show him how we do the other events. And that's just one example. There are several examples of our folks doing that in our company. And to me, I'm successful. Forget about the balance sheet and the profit statement. I am successful because I have influenced. I am an influence on our folks to be good and do good and give back.
So what would you say to the business owner? So I talked to my friend who worked at this company that claimed, they did all this good and stuff, but then they took away his bonus one year. He had a raise in 5 years. So he was almost bitter. It was like bitter he was bitter by the mission of the organizations, because he's like, it's not true. How do you balance that? You're encouraging your employees to give money. I mean, to do all this business so we can give money away. How do you then balance it with taking care of them? And what does that look like in your business?
That is something that weighs on me, because as the sole business owner of a company that has been successful, a lot of weight is on my shoulders, because I can't do this on my own. I couldn't do it without you guys. You guys got me to this level. I have to take care of you now. And I don't want to get too far into this because I haven't announced it to my employees yet, but I'm
This won't be for another couple of months, so you're good.
Cool. So this will start in January.
Okay, great.
I have now reached my goal where I promised God I'd start going nonprofit. That's there, and I'm not going to use it frivolously, and I hope it shouldn't go away. If it does, again, I'll rebuild it. But I have what I need. So now my mission is to start building their wealth and building their riches. And that's one of my missions that I'm going to start next year. Is we all have a dream of retiring. Nobody wants to work forever. I don't care how much you love your job. And I'm not going to talk about you because you're an anomaly, but I don't care how much you love your for-profit job. You would rather be doing something else if you really could, right? You'd rather sit on the beach or go whatever. You'd rather be not working. So I want to help my people as much as I can attain more for their retirement and try to get them there. Another thing that I'm going to do, and I haven't settled on the amount yet, but each employee is going to get X amount of dollars, and they get to spend that on whatever it is. So I'm going to allocate, I'll use $1,000, for example. And I have about 35 employees. Every employee is going to be allocated $1,000. They can come to my CFO at any time and say, I want to give $500 to this charity or that baseball team. I don't care what it is, as long as it's for a good purpose and it's helping the community, because I want to empower them without hurting their pocketbook to give back. This is all money that we've built or we've created the success in attaining, and I want to share the wealth.
Noted nonprofits, go and get to know Mastercraft employees.
Yeah. So, but that'll be so fun to do. I don't know that other companies do that. And I like
not that directly,
completely different. No. You know, I want it to be whatever tugs on their heartstrings. And I just want them to be able to freely give.
Well, I think that when you do that, they will experience what it's like to give.
Yeah.
And I feel like that will then in turn want to make them give more.
Let's hope
and
so.
Of their own. That's how it works, right?
Yeah. But, you know, companies, and I won't ever knock anyone that's like, they're driven to continually succeed and grow their investments and all that sort of stuff. That's fine. We have to have people like that in the world. It's just, it's not me. So, I don't even know where I was going with that, but I know where I was going with it. The company is like your friend, for instance, that they like touting that they're philanthropic, and a lot of people do, but like, are you really philanthropic? You know, how are you giving to give a token consideration because it makes you feel better in your heart? Or are you giving because you're really going to uncomfortably give to make an impact? If you're uncomfortably giving to make an impact, then yes, you are very giving. If you're writing a $100 check when you really could write a $10,000 check, but you're just, shut them up and just give them money, that's not giving. And too many people claim that they're charitable and all that sort of stuff, but I'm here to rattle the cage a little bit.
I love it. I love it. I mean, I'm even thinking of my own self and my giving and my finances. And like when I do go to give more generously, that feeling right there, like, what if I'm not taken care of? What if, what if I better hang on to this?
Yeah.
And I think I miss out on a lot because of my lack of generosity.
To say you have lack of generosity is ridiculous, but also it's not to say that I'm telling everyone to go write a $10,000 check, because it's all relative to what we have.
Yeah. I mean,
the Bible talks about that
to
too.
give uncomfortably.
Yeah. The lady in the Bible that poured nard oil on Jesus's head, and his disciples were like, whoa, what are you doing? That's like 3 years worth of salary or whatever it is. And Jesus stopped him, and he's like, if this is what she wants to give to me, I am the Lord. Let her do it. That's a huge give for what she just did, unlike you guys. And and it's just, man, it takes faith. It just takes faith, stepping out and being like, I am committed to doing this.
And when you say faith, does it feel like you have faith that, like, are you having faith in that the Lord's going to provide that? I mean, what is it that you're having faith in? What are your thoughts when
Yeah,
you
sure. A
write
big
the
part
check?
of it is that the Lord is going to provide. I also have this healthy fear that I know God gave me these resources. I made that promise to him. If I don't use the resources for how I think he wants me to use them, he might take them away. And it's not the fear that I have of him taking away, it's the fear that I have of disappointing him, because I made that promise to him. And I mean, I could tell you story after story after story that makes zero sense in my life, where it's just things have fallen into my lap. And I can tell you they have fallen into my lap way more since I started committing myself to giving than they did before. And just complete anomalies that keep happening. It's not always, you can't say, okay, God, I just gave $1,000. I hope you give me that $1,000 this week. You can't, that's not faith. You just got to give and just keep rolling with it and not worry about it. I don't know. It's hard I can't even define it really. I'm just not scared.
So I'm thinking of the sphere. So when your sphere is collapsed, we talk about your capacity to hold is less.
Sure.
So then the anxiety, the blame, the shame take up more space. But as you give and create more space, you can hold more.
Yep.
You can hold joy, you can hold generosity. And I wonder if that's a difference between, I struggle also with anxiety and depression. And when I'm in those states, I live in like a place of lack where I feel like I have to hold on to everything because I don't have anything to give. But as you're expanding and you're experiencing generosity and you're holding all this goodness and love and joy and maybe some hard things, anxiety, you live out of like abundance. And it's like a totally different place to be in your life. Then, I mean, could you look back at that time of anxiety and depression and now and look at, if we were going to look at your capacity to hold things, can you see a difference? Like, you put words to what I'm trying to say? I don't have Jason here to interpret my question.
Yeah, kind of. I've always been an overachiever, always, even as an adolescent. So I always filled my plate. But if I look at like my dad, my parents oftentimes are like, I don't know how you keep up with all the stuff.
I don't know how you either. I mean, honestly,
I don't know either sometimes, but I
but you do.
Yeah. And that's probably where the anxiety and depression come into play. But I do have a hard time saying no. And there's a business owner in St. Johns County. His name is Wayne Robison. And Wayne owns a really big company that many people don't even know are headquartered in St. Johns County called Rulon. And they make these beautiful wood pieces that are in every single embassy, United States embassy across the world. They're just beautiful wall art, ceiling art, acoustic stuff. And I went and met with him years ago. And a lot of what I'm saying right now, that hour I spent with him or whatever it is, he taught me so much more in that hour than he'll ever realize. I've never even hooked up with a gentleman after that. And he told me he was on the beach in Ponte Vedra. He had this company going, Rulon. And he said, Chris, God just spoke to me on the beach that night. And he said, you need to wildly expand your business. But from this point forward, your success is mine. It's not yours. And I understand that now. It didn't make sense to me back then. I was like, what do you mean God talked to you? Like, how does that happen? How did you commit to that? And he just did by faith. And he told me, if somebody, I hope a million people don't go knock on his door on this one, but he's like, if somebody comes to me and asks me for something, I feel like God sent them and I don't tell them no. And I'm sure he does. Like, we all have to vet, certain organizations or certain people that ask, but he was just an anomaly to me at that time, that he had this wildly successful business, but he was dedicated to that not being his. And that's sort of how I look at mine now. I mean, I can't explain. I never even want to be a business owner. I never had the confidence to be a business owner. And, but it just, my life has been amazing. But even then, and I still deal with anxiety and depression a lot.
You do?
Yes. I mean, I take meds for it.
Me too.
And it happens often that I get stuck in this hole, and I push pause and I look around, and I have this beautiful woman who wears a ring that I gave her on her finger. And I have, we live at the barn on that property out there, and it's magical. And I'm surrounded by state forest, and I have this great company and great resources. Why am I this way? Why am I feeling this way? And I don't know how to define it. I have not been able to define it. Make myself vulnerable again. I've been seeing a therapist about it. I'm not embarrassed by that at all. I just,
Me too.
yeah, trying to figure it out, because that word joy, a short little word, but it's so powerful. I pray often, God, just help me find joy. That joy, peace and happiness kind of mixed into one, instead of this angst and worrying about what's next and all those sort of things. So
Yes.
It's hard. I don't know. If you figure it out before I do, will you let me know, and I'll do the same?
I know sabbatical helped.
Yeah. You needed that.
No, I also love to hear that from you, because I mean, I ask myself that question a lot, like, what's wrong with me? I have this amazing life. I have all this goodness. And like, why can't I just be not anxious and whatever? Yeah. And I don't have an answer yet, except that there's usually an incident or something that happens that pulls the darkness off, and I can re-enter back in. And it's usually through a person and nature. And that's how God meets me. Yeah,
some form of trigger, something.
Yeah.
And we don't even always know what it is.
Yeah, sometimes I can't explain it.
Right. And it's dark. But, when I look at you, and maybe when you look at me, I see such a joyous person. I have never talked to you on the phone and you not be like 110%, enthusiastic and bubbly and all that sort of stuff. But as the CEO of a company, you have to put on that face. And I hide behind that face a lot of times. And you obviously do too.
Yeah.
But it's important to talk about it. And it's also important to think about the others out there that might come off as super confident and have this big ego and all like that. They might be very well masking something. You just don't know what people are going through.
Yeah.
And that's where not judging and loving comes in. Even though that's super hard sometimes with people. It's important. So
I forget a lot that, we're all human. We're so human. Everyone is so human. Even the person I look up to the most is just, we're so human.
Joby Martin is my pastor at 1122. That man is amazing. He's an amazing teacher. They have one of the largest, if not the largest, or fastest growing churches in the United States. And I'm fortunate to have a great relationship with him. I don't talk to him often, but we do have a deep relationship. And I look at him sometimes, and I feel bad for him, because he's up there preaching to I don't know. I think they have 100,000 people that listen to him every week or something like that, right? And you put them up on this pedestal, like, all right, he's the pastor. He should be doing everything right. He's got this big church, better not make a mistake. And he'll flat out tell you all the time, I am not perfect. All I am is the mailman. I'm delivering the message. And if you want to get disappointed, come hang around me for a couple hours. You'll see. And he's really good at just, bluntly saying a lot of things, but it's true. He's just a human being teaching the word. Do not think that he is some super godly individual that has these amazing powers that we don't have because he's a pastor. He's a human being. And he's been another amazing influence on my life, just absolutely amazing in his teachings. But we are all human. And I don't care how big of a position you're in or how famous you are. Like, gosh dang, you look at, who was it, Matthew Perry? The dude had everything, right? But he couldn't get off the pills and the booze. But why wasn't he happy? The poor dude died alone in a mansion, in a hot tub. And he's just a human.
Just a human. And there's something about figuring that out along the way. Like when you said, like when Joby says, just come hang out with me and you'll be disappointed.
Yeah.
I think sometimes I interpret that as like, come hang out with me, you'll be disappointed and you won't love me. Therefore, I'm just not going to let you in at all. I'm just going to be over here, be myself, because I don't want to get hurt. So I feel like the people that...
Yeah, that's deep.
Yeah, that can accept their imperfections in humanity and then keep moving anyways. Those are the ones that change the world, I think. It's beautiful.
So that's your blame and shame.
That's my blame
You're
and shame.
You're afraid that they're going to see
and not love me.
You first, different than the brand that they have of Kristin in their head.
And everyone, it's weird. Even this little world of Rethreaded, people sometimes don't know my name and they'll just say, hey, Rethreaded. And I was like, I'm Kristin. Like, I'm Kristin.
Spell my name right, too.
Like, I'm this person way outside of the organization.
Yeah.
But so that's, I think, that is my blame and shame. It is what takes me out of the game.
Yeah. So you're afraid you're going to disappoint.
Yeah. And not be loved. And yeah.
Well, that is a shame.
I know. I've also overachieved on most of my life. I don't ever do anything. I'm not just like I'm either all in or all out. There's not like a middle ground here.
I told my therapist a couple weeks ago, I was like, not the problem with me, but one of my traits is I don't stick my toe in the water. If I think I want to jump in there, it's cannonball time. Like straight up, there's no sticking a toe in the water.
Which is why you've given away, like, I wish you could calculate. I bet it's over 1 million. It has to be way more than $1 million. And personally.
Oh, yeah.
It has to be.
I don't have that part up.
It has to be.
I mean, Clays for a Cause will be almost 1.5 million after this year.
And how many years is that?
This is our 11th year.
And that's just through Clays for a Cause.
Clays for a Cause,
That's not what you've
Concerts
given away.
for a Cause, which we did for 5 charities, and you'll be the next one. 6, do 5 or 6. In either case, we raised $300,000 for local nonprofits through having a concert in my front yard. I mean, you want to talk about
so good,
a surreal moment? Like Marshall Tucker is in my front yard in their tour bus. And I'm in their tour bus hanging out with them. What the hell? You know, dive into Rio. Yeah, it's like pinch myself. But then why do I feel depression after that?
I don't know.
Yeah. And these, and the poor, I won't say poor. This is where my heartstrings pull on the ladies and the kids, because they walk around with that shame and blame. And, if I'm feeling depressed and anxious and shameful of my life, what about women that have been part of the sex trade and have made bad choices, or they were strippers, or shooting up heroin, whatever it is? How much more shameful do they feel? And it is a shame that they feel that way, because we can change. It's not easy. I mean, I'm still trying to change a couple big things in my life, and it's not easy, but you just got to keep taking a step in the right direction. And you guys are so amazing at empowering the women to get back on their feet with a career, people who love them. You still have intense therapy there for them at Rethreaded.
And I learned, you have to go and listen to the most recent podcast we released with Shirley. When you drive home tonight, listen to that podcast with Shirley, who is a survivor. And like, I want what she has. It's so beautiful. She has joy.
Yeah.
She has this beautiful well of joy. Oh, it's so good. And she has done so much hard work to get there, of healing and doing all the stuff, being uncomfortable and walking through it. Oh my gosh. I learned so much from doing a podcast with her. I take notes.
And I bet she's probably she might not have accepted, or maybe she does now, that in some ways you probably look up to her and envy her. You, Kristin, the CEO of Rethreaded, envy one of your survivors.
Yes.
Right? It's like that person that they live in a very simple, modest home. They don't really have any disposable income. They don't have anything fancy, yet they're happy as hell.
Yeah.
And, I used to ding those people like, why you're comfortable with this? They're way smarter than I am. Like, they found joy without all this crap that we keep chasing.
Yeah.
So life is fun. It's a
It's
journey,
fun.
right?
That is true. And maybe it is part of our self-acceptance that we do jump in all the way, and then we have these huge highs.
Yeah, like, can you sit idle?
No.
That's another thing my therapist is talking with us.
Gosh.
She's like, do you ever just sit and meditate? I was like, say what?
That's
Hell no,
what
I can't. I don't know how to. I need to. I think I need
I
to.
say that all the time. On my sabbatical, I did. By the end of my sabbatical, I honestly had so much love that I would just sit there and cry sometimes because it felt so good. And then it took about 4 or 5 months to come back into the world and kind of like lose the stillness, and you lose my ability. I mean, I started a side hustle. Why did I start a side hustle? I do, and it takes up all my spare time is now on the side hustle. And I'm like, oh my gosh, why did you do this?
Yeah. I am learning to limit because you're entrepreneurial too.
Yes.
Like I see things, I'm like, oh, I know I could do that better and it can make money. And I'm like, well, why? Why would I do that? Focus on the other stuff. Focus on better stuff. Keep what you have. You got plenty of stuff to, my wife has a choke chain on me sometimes.
That's good.
Reel me in.
I'm looking for that. I'm looking for the spouse who is very, very.
If you'd like to take Kristin on a date, please call.
We'll put this advertisement up. You're going to have to be very, very patient and very strong and confident within yourself. Oh, gosh. Okay. So do you have a full circle moment that you can think of most recently when it was all that, the purpose, community, time, it all was there? And maybe that was a moment where in your sphere, there was joy and there was some anxiety, but you could hold the joy. It was good.
Give me an example of one of yours.
Oh,
if you don't mind, since you put me on the spot.
I was about to leave for sabbatical, and I had, I kind of like put my whole life into Rethreaded, and I was about to leave for sabbatical, and we were having a staff meeting, and I'm kind of like in the back of the staff meeting, and my staff is in front of me, they don't know that this is happening in the back of my room, but I was just like, I have people who will carry this vision now. Like, it's not me carrying the vision. It is this group of people who will carry the vision, and not only carry the vision, but carry it better with who they are. And I just sat in the back and just cried. And then for Christmas this past year, one of our women pulled my name in Secret Santa last year. And she had everyone put I can't talk about this one without crying. She had everyone put their handprints on that piece of art. And then on the back of it, she said, these are the hands that carry the vision that you started. And then on the same breath, anxiety comes and tells me I don't have any worth anymore. So
I have felt a lot of anxiety in handing the reins over to my team.
Oh, gosh.
My brother, when he popped out of my mom, he was immediately stuck to my hip. We're 6 years different. I'm older. But he is my best friend for eternity. And we're so lucky to be able to work together and still love one another and not argue, and we understand our roles. But in handing over those reins, it has built a lot of anxiety in me because I feel like my purpose isn't really there. Like, I can wake up when I want to wake up. If I don't want to go to the office, don't go. If I don't,
it doesn't matter anymore if I'm there.
Yeah. It's a weird feeling. It's not always positive feeling. One full circle thing, and I don't mean to speak so much about religion, but it is what popped in my head. I was not a believer of Jesus after about middle school, I'd say. And I was never deeply involved in the church. I mean, we go for the obligatory Easter and Christmas. And so I fell out. I even told my parents, took a lot of courage when I first told them about it. I'm like, I believe Jesus lived. He was a good dude, but I don't believe anything more than that. And I was adamant about that. And I would argue with people who wanted to talk about Jesus. And, one of my employees, actually, because she reminded me of that when I got baptized. And I went on this faith walk, and I asked Joby if he would baptize me.
When was this?
2020. That wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
And I asked him if he would baptize me, and he not only told me yes, but he eventually told me 1122 uses the language of one more. And one more is somebody that you pray that they will come to Jesus. I was Joby's one more. Makes no damn sense. Me, the stupid, no one from nowhere, full of shame and everything else. And they were talking about, why the heck would he pick me? And I asked him that, and he said, it's just where God led me, man. He said, I actually had 2 one mores, you and my dad, and I baptized my dad a couple months ago. And so fast forward, I get baptized, and I actually got baptized with one of my best friends, Matt Klein. And it was an amazing moment. But I asked Joby, I want to get baptized in our hunt club. He's part of our hunt club over in Clay County. I said, I want to get baptized in the creek, Black Creek, in our hunt club, because I read in the Bible, Jesus got baptized in the middle of the woods by his cousin, John the Baptist. And that's what I want to do. I don't want to be in a kiddie pool in the church parking lot. No offense if you want to do that. That's just not what I wanted to do. So I got baptized in September of 2020. And I told him that day, I really believe there will be hundreds, if not thousands, of people being baptized right here. And he's like, I hope you're right. Well, 2 weekends ago, we baptized number 20 in Black Creek. It was the 5th baptism that we did, and I conducted the baptism. So, I think back to just 7-8 years ago when I started this faith walk to today. And it's complete full circle. I went from a non-believer to now I just baptized somebody. And the one that we did prior to that were 2 of my employees, my dad, my brother, and my big brother from UNF in our college, in our fraternity, baptized him as well. It's just, and I even told, his name's Josh Epps, he lives up in Georgia. And he came down when he found out I was doing this, and wanted to get baptized. And I said, Josh, isn't this crazy how God works? Look at you and me in college. And I'm not going to talk about the stupid stuff we did, but we did some stupid stuff and things that we aren't proud of. And I said, think about how he was working on us back then, because there's no reason that he and I had the relationship that we do, because he's, I grew up in fancy Fort Lauderdale. He grew up in Jacksonville, kind of as redneck. And we had not many commonalities, yet we were so incredibly close back then. And even today, 25 years later, whatever it is, we still have that bond. And I was like, it's so crazy, so full circle that you are getting baptized where I got baptized. And how do you explain this sort of stuff?
Can't.
So.
Because it's like God is bigger than us.
Yep. It's that's why it's hard for me to accept sometimes his forgiveness and his love, because he is so much greater than us to comprehend.
Yeah.
Because we have these minds of an earthly human.
Okay. If there's someone listening to this podcast who's maybe been through similar things, who maybe is on the fence about giving, maybe they're on the fence, anxiety, depression, whatever. What message do you want to give to them right now?
I'll say 2 things, if I will. I'll go back to never giving up. If you're struggling with anxiety or depression or addiction or whatever it is, and you're hiding behind that mask, most likely, Or maybe you aren't. Maybe you're just completely vulnerable and you're broken in front of everyone. But a lot of times I think we just hide behind that mask. It's okay to not be perfect. And it's okay to have an addictive behavior. I have addictive behavior. It's okay to not be perfect and to have something flawed about you. Don't give up though, try to take steps to make it better. And definitely never, ever think that it's worth leaving this world by what you do, that would be one thing. On the giving side, I've had I spoke at a Seamark Ranch corporate luncheon, whatever, and they asked me to talk about giving, because they are a nonprofit that we've helped out a bunch as well. And I gave the speech about this uncomfortable giving. And a couple weeks later, one of my friend's wife, who was in the crowd, called me, and she's like, "I just want you to know how impactful that was about giving uncomfortably." And she's like, "We're starting to do it, and it is scary, but it has been so relieving." And then I met a lady. I got to meet Senator Rick Scott this past Monday, and there was a lady in the crowd. And she too came up to me and she's like, "Chris, I saw you speak at the Seamark event." And I said, "Oh, cool." And she's like, "That thing that you talked about, giving uncomfortably," she's like, "I've been practicing it." And I feel just so rewarded that I could have that influence, even if it's just those two people. They're going to start helping more than they would have if they didn't hear that speech at the time. So just try it. But as Christians, we know we have the Holy Spirit in our heart. If you aren't Christian, there should be no shame to that. I still love you. But you still have something in you that's directing you. Let that thing direct you into what is that level that you can still sustain your life, but it's something more than you would have just reactively given. And try it. It's fun. Wealth. I feel the wealthiest when I give, not when I throw it in my wallet.
Oh,
so,
good.
Yeah. And if I can stand on my soapbox for one other thing, we're about to go. So I unfortunately have to get involved in politics on the local level, being a home builder and developer, and I do immerse myself in the community a bunch. So I do get involved in politics some, and we have an election year next year, and it'll happen in many counties. It'll happen in the United States. We have got to stop being so damn divisive towards one another. And it's one thing at the higher level of the president and the vice president and Congress, and they're easy to throw stones at. They're just used to it by now, but it's still disgusting to me. When I see it really start infiltrating the local politics, our local community, I mean, I think we all need to accept that it's okay to disagree. We don't all have to be on the same damn page. And if you think red's better and I think blue's better and you think orange is better, so be it. You like red, I'll like blue, you like orange. We can still be friends. We are neighbors. Our little county is St. Johns County. We have 330,000 people. If you ask most residents, they think that we have way too many people. Shut the doors. No more. We are 330,000 people. You know how many people are in New York City and Manhattan? About 8 or 9 million, right? So we have this big county. I mean, in Northeast Florida, I think we're around 2 million people. We're still this small little thing. One of the greatest fabrics of Northeast Florida, or threads in our fabric, is our sense of community. I do think we have a great sense of community. And if you ignore the headlines and you ignore all the crap that you'll see on TV or in the newspaper, and you really take a step outside and look at the people around, there's a lot of goodness going on. And we need to continue to farm that goodness and nourish that goodness and stop hating on each other so damn much. It is so frustrating. So,
are you going to run for office?
Hell no.
Okay.
No.
I was like, ooh.
No. I'll help where I can help, but I will never sit in one of those seats. I just,
No.
I don't have skin that's thick enough. I mean, I would be in the fetal position crying in the middle of the night most times,
No, because no one would love me.
Yeah, you would expose yourself.
All right. So this was so good. Thank you for being so open.
Sure.
And vulnerable and honest. And
I was a
awesome.
little more vulnerable than I thought I was going to be, but
it
is what it is. I can't be shameful of my past. If anything, like especially, I was anorexic in high school. A male anorexic doesn't happen unless you're in, stereotypical, you're a wrestler or something like that, where you just get addicted to cutting weight. I didn't have that. I was a perfectionist who put way too much weight on my shoulders, and I found control in food or lack thereof. And I almost died. I was 106 pounds, 5'10". And I'll share something else. I was put into an institution in a hospital. I had to stay in a hospital for almost a month, 24 hours a day. And I used to be very embarrassed about that. One, because I was a male anorexic. So that in itself, I just didn't feel like I was masculine. And two, I was in a freaking mental hospital for almost a month. But there's two parts of that. One, if I wasn't there, who knows where the hell I'd be today? I'm glad that happened. It was a lot of toll on my family, a lot of toll on my body that I'll probably see later in life. But I am glad it happened because it made me the person that I am today. And the second part about that is I'm no longer shameful about that. It is a part of my past. I hate that I put my parents through the angst that I put them through, but I can't change it. It is a part of my past. So why not talk about it? And maybe I'll help someone else that is just dealing with that. And so like, I didn't expect to bring up some of the things like that today, but at the same time, who the hell cares? It's my past. It is what it is. It's made me what I am today. And if I can talk to you about the flaws and the bumps in the road and the obstacles that I went through and the dumb decisions that I made, and I can help influence you in a good way by telling you my story, then so be it. And your women have the ability to impact so many people in a great way. People. They have beat the odds. And they went through hell. And now they're beautiful, strong women. And they need to realize that they have people that envy them and they have people that look up to them, and they need to share their story, and they should not be shameful about it, because that BS, that blame and shame, it's going to anchor you down. So that's why we love Rethreaded too. And I'll end it with one thing. I called you or you called me or whatever. We were chatting the other day, and I was like, you're going to be a recipient for Clays for a Cause, because we love you and you're going to be on there in perpetuity. What is it that you need? I know you want to build a commercial kitchen and on. I guess you guys are about to start the kitchen, right? Or it's underway or whatever.
It's underway. Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned that there were a couple sponsorship opportunities. My family's name is in Rethreaded in like the logistics center or something like that.
Where we're not is.
There's full circle, right?
Yeah.
And I'm so proud of that, because I want my future generations to see, oh, grandpa or great grandpa or whatever the hell they call me, or whatever generation it is, that's us. Our family did that, because there's amazing families in this town. Like the Skinner family to me is like the epitome of an amazing family. I don't know how for generations and generations and generations, they just seem to be humble, kind servants of the Lord, and very successful in everything that they do. But I want to be synonymous with that family. So anyhow, I say that I brought a check today for my family to do the big sponsorship in your kitchen. So we have a $25,000 check here. So it's on the floor now, and it didn't bounce. Did you see that?
I can't wait.
Anyhow, we want you to continue with your mission. I am so proud to be your friend, and I'm so thankful that we met that one day in the Northeast Florida Builders Association, and I'm giving. I'm uncomfortably giving to fulfill the mission of helping orphans and widows in distress. So
thank you. Thank you for rethreading your life and sharing joy and love. Amen.
Amen.